Back in 2018, a shaky, low-budget phone video dropped on YouTube, and it didn't just go viral. It flipped Kenyan music upside down. It shocked parents, thrilled matatu crews, and turned 4 teenagers into overnight stars. Hello everyone, welcome to Nexview Media, and this is the story of Gengetone, the raw, rebellious genre that took over Kenya, and why, just as quickly as it came, it nearly vanished. Now, before we begin, let's get a bit of a backstory. Before Gengetone, there was Genge, a sound that ruled radio stations in the early 2000s, but by the mid-2010s, local youth felt disconnected. Nigerian Afrobeats and Tanzanian Bongo took over. Nairobi streets needed a new soundtrack which was raw, local, and unfiltered. Now, since we have the backstory, let's now go to where it all began. Now picture this: Nairobi's Eastlands, California estate, with concrete blocks, graffiti walls, and endless hustle. Out of this backdrop came Ethnic Entertainment, with notable members like SWAT, Reckless, Senyk, and Zilla. With nothing but a beat and borrowed smartphone, they recorded the famous song. It had no fancy music video budget, no corporate backing. It was just raw street vibe and sharing lyrics so explicit that your Sunday school teacher would faint. But the youth loved it. The beat slapped, the slang was fresh, and for the first time in years, Kenyan music sounded like Nairobi nights. The song exploded. It garnered millions of views on YouTube, which had DJs spinning it in clubs and matatus blasting it loud enough to rattle your ribs. And just like that, Gengetone was born. Soon, other groups jumped in, with the notable groups like Sailor's Gang, which came up with Wamlambez, a song so infectious it turned into a national chant. At stadiums, in traffic, even at funerals when somebody yelled the word Wamlambez and a crowd shouted back Wamnyonyez, with even famous celebrities like Jamie Foxx saying it.
Yes, then you say Wamnyonyez.
Wamnyonyez. Yes. Wamnyonyez.
Then there was Boondocks Gang, Ochungulo Family, and solo acts who flooded the scene. Their lyrics were so unapologetically dirty, hilarious, and hyperlocal. Videos were shot in estates, alleyways, and apartment rooftops. Their production quality was a bit rough, but authenticity was always 100%. And that was the magic. You see, Gengetone wasn't trying to sound like Nigeria or America. It sounded like us, like Nairobi slang, matatu graffiti, late night chips muitu, and secret weekend plans your parents shouldn't know about. Between 2019 and 2021, Gengetone wasn't just a genre, it was youth culture. Spotify even launched a new section called Gengetone Fire. Radio stations finally caved in and played the tracks, and club DJs stopped apologizing for vulgar lyrics. Ethic's other song Pandana hit over 6 million views. Ochungulo's Kaa na Mama Yako, Sailor's Wainame, and even Wamlambez racked up millions more. At its peak, Gengetone tracks were more streamed in Kenya than any other genre. For once, local music pushed back the dominance of Nigerian Afropop music and Tanzania Bongo. It wasn't about perfection, it was about fun. The beats were simple, heavy on bass, and the flows were short and catchy. You could dance, you could shout, and everyone felt included. Even Kenyans who didn't like Gengetone found themselves saying Wamlambez or Sipanguingwi. Suddenly, estate slang crossed class lines and everyone spoke the same youth language, well, at least for a moment. But with fame came backlash. Older Kenyans, conservative groups, and moral police argued that the lyrics were too dirty for airplay. Then came the big scandal when Ethnic released the song Tarimbo, which many argued that it glorified sexual violence. The Kenya Film Classification Board, which was then led by Ezekiel Mutua, who was then the CEO of Kenya Film Classification Board, quickly stepped in.
You know, when people shout Wamlambe, Wamnyonyez, you don't get it until you dig deeper to know what it is. Even me, I took time to understand. But this thing is so dirty. How I wish the hype that we are put on Wamlambes and Wamnyonyez was put on something positive.
Videos were pulled from YouTube, radio stations refused to play some tracks, and suddenly, the same youth-driven movement that started as fun now carried labels like immoral, dangerous, and a bad influence. Even fans started debating, had Gengetone gone too far? And artists themselves admitted that they might need to mature the message. You see, fame is one thing, but sustaining it is another different thing. Most Gengetone groups were very young, had little knowledge in royalties, publishing, or even branding. Labels rushed in, sometimes with unfair contracts, and internal fights broke out. Members left, regrouped, or just stopped recording. YouTube revenue alone couldn't pay the bills, especially with demonetized explicit videos. Club gigs paid cash, but lockdown during the period of 2020 to 2021, which was then during COVID, hit the industry very hard. With no tours, no steady brand deals, and a divided scene, momentum slowed. And by 2022, the wave that felt unstoppable was now a ripple. But here's the twist. Gengetone didn't die, it evolved. Artists like Saru, Femi1, Breeder, and Kushman brought new flavors. Female artists proved that the genre wasn't just for boys' talk. Urban emerged, a subgenre blending Gengetone beats with amapiano, Afrofusion, and melodic hooks. And Gengetone's influence stayed. Even international media, from OK Africa to Boiler Room, admitted that Kenya finally had a distinct youth sound that didn't copy anyone else. So, why does Gengetone matter? Well, it put Nairobi's slang on the global map. It gave young, often underrepresented urban youth a microphone which was raw and filtered, sometimes messy, but it was theirs. It reminded Kenyans that local music could dominate local charts. It started conversations about censorship, youth freedom, and industry structures. And, for a few wild years, it felt like every matatu ride had its own bass-heavy soundtrack, which was rebellious, loud, and alive. Now, Gengetone's biggest stars are experimenting with different sounds. Some say the genre is gone, others say it just grew up. Well, the question remains, will Urban be the second wave? Or will another unexpected sound light up Nairobi next? What remains clear is that Kenyan youth never stop creating, remixing, and shouting back, even if the beat changes. If you remember dancing to Wamlambes at a party or arguing about lyrics on Twitter, then you are part of this chapter of Kenyan music history. So, what do you think? Is Gengetone over or just changing shape? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell as it encourages us to make more content like this. And you never know, Kenya's next big cultural moment might just start right here.